respectfully recognizes the presence of our minority leader, Sen Frank Drilon, and we look forward to other colleagues of ours joining us as we go along. So magandang hapon sa inyo, Sec Del Rosario. Good afternoon, sir, and to the whole DSUD family, the key shelter agencies led by their top leaders and the members of these agencies. Comsec, could I please request you to recognize our resource speakers?
Yes, Madam Chair, good morning. For the record, the committee would like to recognize the following. From the Department of Budget and Management, we have Ms. Chinireth Eve Abalos. From the Department of Human Settlement, Settlement and Urban Development, we have with us Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario, Secretary Marilyn Pintor, Undersecretary Cyril Carlos, the OIC Director for Environmental Land Use and Urban Planning Development Bureau, we have Ms. Nora L. Diaz. We have Ms. Rowena Dineros. We have Attorney Michael Victor Tezon. We have Director Mylene Rivera. We have Director Stefan Emma May Corregidor. We have Ms. Lourdes Oreta. We have Ms. Anilane Gamba. Ms. Maria Lorena Rigor. Mr. Paul Edward Maghirang, Ms. Jesusa Figores, Mr. Mark Anthony Diamante, Ms. Sailani Basig, Ms. Emmy Molo, Ms. Feby Grace Losada. We have a representative from COA for DHSUD. We have Ms. Ruth Serdoncillo. Then from the Human Settlement Adjudication Commission, we have Executive Commissioner Melzar Galicia, Mr. Jorem Torre. And from the Social Housing Finance Corporation, we have Attorney Johnny F. Payot. Then we have Mr. Florencio Carandangs Jr. We have Mr. Dante Anabe, Ms. Carmela Cecil Artates, Ms. Nadine Ortega, Mr. Angelo Belvis. From the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, we have with us President Carlo Luis Rabat, Attorney Victor Alan Hilau, Ms. Christine K. Jimenez, Ms. Livia Alicia Ramos, Ms. Cynthia Mayo. We have Mr. Johnny Custodio, Mr. Mark Sumisim. We have Mr. Romeo Roldan. We have Maria Luisa Fabilia. We have Miss Cynthia Mayo. We have Mr. Johnny Custodio, Mr. Mark Sumisim. We have Miss Rajawen Sabala, Mr. Mark Bani, Mr. Eric Protasio, Miss Leonor Gracia Aquino. We have Miss Irene Ogrimen, Miss Celia Nazareno. From the National Housing Authority, we have the General Manager, Mr. Marcelino Escalada Jr. Then we have Engineer Romel Alimbuyao. Then we have COA representative for National Housing Authority, we have Miss Abigail Padilla. Then for Pag-ibig Fund, we have Mr. Ahmad Rizalde Moti, Mr. Jop Delmo, Miss Stephanie Narvaez, Marshall Pimentel, Lorna Del Rosario, Miss Marilyn Acosta, Miss Jackie Constantino, and Mr. Robert Cosico. Then for Task Force Bangon Marawi, we have with us Attorney Siegfried Lapasaran, Miss Honey Rose Sumiwat, Miss Kim Austin Aspiladia, Miss Joey De Villa. That's all for now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, ComSec. The chair would like to ensure that in this hearing, as many senators as possible will be able to ask their questions, beginning with the minority leader and hopefully any other of our colleagues who will follow later. So I'd like to ask the good secretary to begin with his presentation of, I understand, about 20 slides. And then I'll say a few words about what I expect to be still a gap in the presentation, and then we will immediately begin with the questions of Sen. Frank. So, Secretary Del Rosario, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. To Honorable Chair of the Committee, Senator Risa Contiveros, the Honorable Minority Leader, Senator Franklin Drilon, the heads of the key shelter agencies, all officials of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. From the outline of my presentation will be as follows. I have five topics to cover. First will be the National Shelter Program and the issued attached corporations. Our performance report from January 2020 to June 2021. The status of fund utilization for 2020 and the first semester of 2021. Our budget proposal for fiscal year 2022 and the housing need estimate and economic and social impact of housing. On the National Shelter Program, next slide please. We have three major components of the National Shelter Program, which are the regulation, finance, and production. The regulatory aspect is being undertaken by the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, and the financing aspect is being undertaken by the SDMF or the Pag-ibig Fund, the National Mortgage Finance Corporations, and the Social Housing Finance Corporation, while production of housing is being undertaken by the National Housing Authority. Also attached to the department is the Human Settlement Adjudication Commission, primarily responsible in resolving issues within the housing sector. On the performance report of the housing sector from January 2020 to June 2021. As shown is the target of the different key shelter agencies from 2016 to 2022. And in the total, in the orange color total of PDP target from 2016 to 2022, our PDP target to be accomplished by December of 2022 is 1,280,253. And as of June 2021, the total accomplishments of the housing sector is 1,076,277, which is actually 84% of our target for the whole 2016 to 2022. So meaning to say, it means that we still have 6 months and the whole year of 2022 to accomplish the remaining balance of more than 200,000 units. So it means to say that with an average of 195,000 yearly accomplishments of the housing sector, we can easily accomplish more than 100% of our PDP target. Next slide, please. The major accomplishments of the issued and attached agencies. On the issued accomplishments on environmental, land use, urban planning, and development program, what is very important in this program of the department is the crafting and approval by the National Human Settlements Board of the 20-year National Housing and Urban Development Sector Plan. This is actually our roadmap for beginning 2021 until 2040, which envisions to accomplish human settlements and urban development concerns of our country, and most especially achieve our housing need that must be addressed as early as now, so that it will not balloon by 2040. So, as shown are the different programs undertaken by the Department on Environmental, Land Use, Urban Planning, and Development Programs. Next slide, please. On Housing and Real Estate Development Regulation Program, these are the accomplishments of the department. Of course, we have issued 882 license to sell and so forth. We have also issued policy on asset-backed securities that may be issued by the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation and SHAPSI as full compliance to the Balanced Housing Development Program instead of actual direct implementations of their housing compliance or placing an escrow as a compliance of a given developer. Of course, we have signed a joint memorandum circular on the creation of the anti-illegal real estate service practices. This is a task force that will go after real estate scammers because we have received numerous reports nationwide on real estate scammers. So we crafted and had this task force so that we have a task force that will run after the real estate scammers in the regional offices. On Human Settlements and Urban Development Coordination Program, we have provided technical assistance to 71 LGUs in local shelter plan formulation and facilitated the activation of the local housing boards in 58 LGUs. On Homeowners Association and Community Development Program, for the year, a total of 795 homeowners association were facilitated by our bureau supervising the homeowner associations. I would like to inform the Honorable Committee that as of this year, we have a total of 25,240 homeowner associations nationwide. And we have conducted orientation to 1,458 HOAs on Magna Carta for the homeowners associations. And the other program implementations. On the accomplishments of the Human Settlements Adjudication Commission, as shown, their accomplishments in 2020 and their targets in 2021 based on their outcome indicators. The National Housing Authority, this is the status of accomplishments of their major programs as of July 31 of 2021. Composed of the following programs: the Government Employees Housing Program, Danger Areas in Metro Manila, the Mandamus in 2018, the Yolanda Permanent Housing Program, the Typhoon Pablo, Typhoon Sendong, Zamboanga Conflict, the Marawi Conflict, and the Mindanao Earthquake in 2020. As shown, we have a total of 511,656 program target. And the units started have a total of 443,275. We still have a balance of 88,307 for implementation by the National Housing Authority. On the Social Housing Finance Corporation, shown is the ISF, Informal Central Families Assisted, from 2013 to 2020, and the loan amount released per year, which was highlighted by its accomplishments in 2019, wherein 31,196 informal settler families were assisted by the Social Housing Finance Corporation and released a total amount of 2.57 billion pesos. Of course, there was a downtrend in 2020 and as well as 2021 in view of the COVID-19 pandemic and of course the budgetary concerns of the SHAPSI. On the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, these are the accomplishments of the Home Mortgage Finance Corporations from 2019 to June 2021. In 2019, it has 109% accomplishment. In 2020, 120%. And during the first semester, it has an accomplishment of 31%. On the Pag-ibig Fund, as a snapshot of the Pag-ibig Funds, we have a total of 13.18 million active members as of June of 2021. And we have released a housing loan amount of 44.34 billion from for the year for the first semester and assisted 43,573 housing loan borrowers. And we have also released short-term housing loan releases in the amount of 21.34 billion, benefiting 998,791 members. On the housing loans released from 2012 to 2019 of Pag-ibig Fund, we can see here the yearly increase of housing loan release of Pag-ibig Fund. And it topped 88.7 billion in 2019. We were expecting that this will be, with this, it will breach 100 billion by 2020, but because of the pandemic, we failed to do so. But from 2013 to 2019, we have an average of 15 to 20% increase yearly in as far as housing loans release were provided to our members or Pag-ibig members. Next slide, please. And these are the accomplishments of Pag-ibig on housing loans, housing loan borrowers from 2019 to 2021. In 2019, our target was 101,000. Actual was 95,278, 95%. In 2020, we lowered our target because of the pandemic. So we target 64,467 and achieved 63,750 for 99% accomplishment. Surprisingly, for the first semester of the year, our target was 32,759. But our actual housing loan borrowers reached 43,573, which is 133% of our target, despite the ongoing pandemic. Next slide, please. On the status of fund utilization, this is the utilization of the department and the attached agencies for the year 2020 and the first semester of 2021. For issued, it's 97.94% in 2020, at SAC 79.32, NHA 97.1, SHAPSI 35.79, and National Home Mortgage 100%. And for the first semester of 2021, for the department, we have utilized 49.91% of our first semester budget. For the human settlements, 42.54, NHA 43.37, SHAPSI is they have not received, so there is nothing to report. And for the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, it's 21%. On earmarked revenues and off-budget accounts, this is the summary of the status of trust funds. of the National Housing Authority. Funds raised is 11 billion 95 million and obligated 8.2.54 billion. On the status of off-budget funds from DBM, NHA received 8.3 billion and obligated 7.62 billion. Next, please. On SHAPSI trust funds, funds raised is 350 million from DILG project, HDH, and for the North-South Commuter Railway Station project, 3 billion, and Marawi Recovery Rehabilitation and Reconstruction project, 198 million. Obligated is as shown. On the issued budget, in 2020, the whole department, including the key shelter agencies, received 5.4 billion. And we have proposed for 2021 a total budget proposal of 75.575 billion. But the 2022 DBM recommended budget for the whole housing sector is 6.3 billion, with a variance of 69.1 billion negative variance. Okay, next slide, please. This is the housing sector budget over the years from 2010 to 2021, which has an average of basically 0.1% since 2010. Considering that the national budget is increasing, especially in 2017 to 2021, yet the budget of the housing sector is basically decreasing. Next slide, please. On the housing need estimate and economic and social impact of housing, the housing need based on the study conducted from 2017 to 2022 is 6.6 million. And of this number, the informal settler families have a total of 3.7 million. And in order for the 3.7 million, then the housing needs, to produce these housing needs, we need a budget of 1.85 trillion in order to address it. But we are coming up with a proposal for the allocation of at least 50 billion annually for a period of 20 years so that we can achieve a relatively better performance in achieving our housing need. And there is now a proposed bill known as the National Housing Production and Financing Act, and we are hoping that this will be approved by Congress so that we can address the housing need of our country, which is yearly increasing if we will not be allocating 50 billion annually. Because as of what is happening now, we are only receiving between 4 to 5 billion every year instead of 50 to 60 billion, which is the more appropriate amount of budget that should go to the housing sector. Next slide, please. Now, this is the 20-year roadmap for housing and urban development, wherein we have the near-term, mid-term, and long-term programs in order to address our housing need. It calls for the production of housing units to achieve our housing need, as well as capacity building so that we can impact the green aspect in all housing projects. Next slide, please. On economic and social impact of housing, based on the study conducted, 81% of Filipino families wish to have a house of their own. And for us in the housing sector, we consider shelter as a right of every Filipino family. And of course, home ownership is an option, more especially to the 19% who doesn't want to have a house of their own because they are already satisfied with the rental arrangement of ownership. And studies conducted show that the housing is a number one economic pump primer with 3.44 multiplier output with 80 allowed industries connected to a single house being constructed. And the housing production generated 99 million jobs from 2016 to 2020, contributing about 5% of the Philippines' total employment. And if we have better housing, it would mean it will improve the health conditions, peace and order, productivity, and quality of life of families having better housing facilities. Next slide, please. With that, Honorable Chairman, Honorable Senator, that ends my presentation. Thank you very much, po.
Thank you very much also, Secretary. The chair would like to recognize the presence of Sen Francis Tolentino, the chair of our Senate Committee on Housing. Salamat, Sen Francis, for
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman.
joining us.
Chairwoman.
Yes, San Francis. Thank you, Secretary, for the presentation. I just like to say a very few words on one of the issues that I hope we can pursue here, and then we'll immediately go to the questions first of the minority leader, and then San Francis and any other colleagues who will join us. So, first of all, good Secretary, dear agency heads, I'd like to understand how the private sector and our LGUs are contributing to addressing the housing backlog. The issuance to subdivision and condominium developers of licenses to sell by what was once the HLURB generated a commitment to produce socialized housing units. In fact, this is one of the numbers that the NEDA's annual socioeconomic report presents. And from our preparatory discussions, good Secretary, I got the impression that at least 20 billion pesos worth of socialized housing stock was no longer produced by the private sector as their compliance with the balanced housing law. And this happened after former USEC Christopher Lau offered a scheme beginning 2018 that allowed developers to just provide much smaller cash. So instead of 20 billion pesos in private sector housing production, you now have an unreported accumulated off-budget fund of just around 5 billion pesos. And I'm guessing that there are still developers who complied with the balanced housing law by producing actual houses, no, instead of the alternative compliance of just offering cash. So that is the first gap in the presentation. The two more I'll just present if we will have a next hearing of this budget if requested by any other of the senators who may not be able to follow today, or if we can deem it submitted then in the plenary. So the chair now opens the floor to questions, beginning with Senator Frank Drilon. You have the floor, Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And for the record, let me put my congratulations and at the same time sympathies for our good secretary because of a very frustrating mission to provide adequate housing for our people. As you know, Madam Chair, we authored the law which created the Department of Housing, the urban development, and because we believe that really a key to our many economic and social problems would be sufficient housing for our people. And indeed, it is so frustrating that the good secretary said that we needed 1.85 trillion to address 3.7 million housing needs, which would require 50 billion per year for the next 20 years. And how much is your budget? 6 billion or something, Mr. Secretary?
An average of 5 billion yearly, Mr.
5 billion.
Chairman.
So
5
if you need 50 billion for the next 20 years, at the rate of 5 billion per year, how many years would we need in order to achieve that goal? In any case, really, that's why I said it is both a challenge and a frustration because the good secretary, I can see, is sincerely trying to achieve achieve his mission or a substantial portion of it, or at least set the policy grounds to enable our housing sector to catch up with our housing needs. But apparently, at 5 billion per year, and the proposal is 50 billion per year, my calculator is not big enough to figure out how many years it will take us to address your housing requirements. But it is so unfortunate. Instead of addressing housing, we address the anti-insurgency issue, which is so frustrating to us. I know that the secretary cannot comment on this. That's understandable, but I think it is. I think we do not have to elaborate how frustrating it is to see the budget with 28 billion in NTF LCAC anti-insurgency funds. I repeat that, 28 billion as against your budget of an average of 5 billion a year. In other words, really the priorities in the budget is so unheard of that the social projects like the housing are totally ignored. In any case, I noticed that in your presentation, among the achievements that you cited is the issuance of 882 licenses to sell, which generated 301,154 units. Is that a correct recollection, Mr. Secretary? As one of the achievements that you cited?
Yes po, Madam Chairman, Your Honor.
And this is for 2020?
2021.
I'm sorry?
2020 and 2021, Madam Chair.
So for 2 years, 2020.
1 year and a half.
1 year and a half. All right. Now, what about, has there been, how do we compare these figures to 2019 insofar as licenses to sell? Is there an improvement? Is there a decrease in licenses to sell that you have issued?
Is it lower or higher? Lower in 2020, but in 2021, it's higher, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
Lower in 2020, but higher in
2021 because of the pandemic, Madam Chair,
Yes,
Your Honor.
But, okay, there was a presidential anti-graft report on this issuance of licenses. Do you recall that, Mr. Secretary?
Madam Chair, Your Honor, I think the Honorable Senator was referring to the time when Yusek Lloyd Lau was the CEO of the HLURB.
That's correct. I am referring to that. And the whole case started because Undersecretary Lau or attorney or the head of the housing of the HLURB at that time, Attorney Lloyd Christopher Lau, issued Memorandum Circular 09 dated May 2, 2018, which made the approval of the license to sell for housing projects extremely difficult to obtain because this was all centralized in his office. Do you confirm that, sir?
Madam Chair, Your Honor, actually, I inquired from our officials regarding that issue. What USEC law then imposed was the accreditation of housing projects, not actually the license to sell.
Accreditation of housing projects.
Yes, but the license to sell still remain with the regional offices.
But the accreditation of the housing projects would be essential. How do you call it again? Accreditation of housing projects. Is that how it's called?
Yes, Madam Chair, Your Honors, because
No,
USEC
wait. The accreditation of housing projects was the one that was centralized by Mr. Lau.
Yes, Madam Chair, Your
All
Honor.
right. And that accreditation of the housing project is essential before a license to sell can be issued, Mr. Secretary.
That is for the compliance of the particular developer, Madam
That's
Chair,
correct.
Your Honor.
Yeah, I am basing my questions on the report of the Presidential Anti-Graft Commission on this point. And the Presidential Anti-Graft Commission report traced the complaints on the Memorandum Circular 09 dated May 2, 2018 issued by Undersecretary Lau. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
Yes, and the developers complained that because of this memorandum circular, whether an authorization or accreditation of housing projects or license to sell, created a logjam because all of these were coming from the office of Undersecretary Lau. That's the complaint, right?
Yes, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
All right. Therefore, it is interesting because you claim as your as one of the achievements of your agency the issuance of 882 licenses to sell. May I know what is the number during the time of Undersecretary Lau?
With regards to the figure, Madam Chair, Your Honor, I don't have the figure right now. But what we did was to revise that memorandum circular number 9, and we had it revised based on our memorandum circular number 6 in 2020. Because
Why did you revise memorandum circular number 9? What prompted you to do that, Mr. Secretary?
we reduced the documents required before we authorize the applicants so that they will be given immediate accreditation in the process. So we made it faster so that the production of housing units will be faster also, Madam Chair, Your Honors.
So you saw the source of the problem to be the logjam created in the office of Undersecretary Lau.
Yes, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
And you solved that by revising Memorandum Order Number 9. That's what you're
Yes,
telling us.
Madam Chair, Your Honors.
And because of that, you were able to remove the log jam
Yes, effectively, Madam Chair, Your Honors.
effectively. Yeah. And okay, there was in relation to that finding of the HUDC of the Presidential Anti-Graft Commission. It mentioned that uh, in order that this log jam could be resolved, the solution then imposed by Undersecretary Lau was to have an express lane. Do you recall? Is that correct, Mr. Secretary? An express lane wherein all of this can be expedited, as versus your circular that reduced the number of licenses necessary or documents necessary. Do you recall that? Is that you confirm that, Mr. Secretary?
Madam Chair, Your Honors, we just follow the ARTA requirement of 7,
Yeah.
so that
Yes.
it is within the regulations as the anti-red tape authority.
That's the
It is
So
doing
as
this.
against the creation of the express lane, you instituted another system consistent with the Anti-Red Tape Act. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, Your Honors.
Yes, all right. Now, the express lane required a certain amount of money to be deposited by each developer. Is that correct?
That is a different modality, Madam Chair, Your Honors. Actually, in the balanced housing compliance, we have 3 modalities being observed now. That is the direct participation of the developer to do the actual project, a socialized housing project. Now, mostly developers who are doing condominium projects, they don't do socialized condominium projects, and they do not do subdivision projects as compliance. So instead of being impeded in their desire to construct more condominium projects, they opted the incentivized option of providing escrow, and that will serve as their temporary compliance already, so that they can proceed again to their next project.
And this is,
And,
excuse me, Secretary De Rosario, and this is precisely what the developers complained about, this escrow setup.
Madam Chair, Your Honor, as far as we are concerned, we're not receiving complaints with regards to the escrow.
I am not referring to your present system. I am referring to the system imposed by Undersecretary Lau. Isn't that a fact that developers complained about this escrow amount being deposited, and this to them this is an additional cost?
Madam Chair, Your Honor, I think it's not being considered as additional cost. What they were complaining is for them their projects to be given accreditation because of the direct participation. Because at that time, USEC Law was questioning the joint venture modality
Yes.
being undertaken by some developers in as far as NHA projects are concerned. Because he discovered that there were some developers who used the projects of the NHA
Yes.
as compliance, which he did not
Yes.
allow. So
Yes.
that's why he imposed the accreditation to be centralized instead of being authorized by regional offices, because our regional offices then were authorizing developers to use as compliance NHA projects.
The remedy could have been a directive to the regional offices not to do this, rather than imposing this monetary burden, this burden on the developers. But having said that, uh, has the new system of having the escrow option improved the compliance? Did it increase the compliance for socialized housing? It has, I assume.
Madam Chair, Your Honors, actually the computation of the escrow It's basically the same as before. But what we do now is to come up with policies, protocols on how to access, how it is being utilized, and ensure that the budget will be implemented effectively and efficiently. For
All right.
instance, Madam Chair, Your Honors, for any project that will be funded by the escrow, the release of funds will be on progress billing. We do not release the whole escrow amount to the contractor, but instead it will be on progress billing after the inspection of our regional offices, having complied, let's say, 30 or 40% accomplishment. And that's the time that the developer will release subsequent funding for the project.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Now, having made all of these explanations, can you tell us what that complaint is all about, which apparently you're saying which you're trying to explain, but can you tell us what the complaint at the Presidential Anti-Graft Commission involved as a complaint against Undersecretary Lau?
Madam Chair, Your Honors, with due respect to you, Saklau, I think the complaint, because it's anonymous, I think the complainant belonged to his organization also from HLURB, who would like to...
No, wait. Do not, I'm just asking about the complaint itself. Whoever is the complainant is not material. We're talking about the issue and the subject of what was complained about. As you know, under our laws today, an anonymous complaint should be entertained even by the ombudsman. So it's immaterial who is the complainant. What is important is the subject of the complaint.
Madam Chair,
No.
Your Honors, yes, that is right, Your Honors. But what I am saying is that the complaint was not accurate in the sense that there was no extortion, so to speak. It's just the imposition of the accreditation process, which was misconstrued as an extortion act by then USEC Lau. But of course, it impeded the accreditation of housing projects because of that centralized system.
Yes, it impeded the accreditation of housing projects, and that is the key. It impeded the accreditation of housing projects, and it was very critical to fast track these housing projects because of our housing needs. And the impediment, as shown by the facts, as you yourself admitted, is causing monetary damage to the developers. And that is the subject matter of the complaint. But having said that, exactly what did you do with this directive of the PAGC? The memo was addressed, correct me if I'm wrong, to the secretary.
Madam Chair, Your Honor, when I received that letter from PACC, that was already, I think, first week of September of 2019. And at that time, USEC Lau was out of the housing sector as early as June or July of 2019. So I caused that message, that report, to his staff, and it was that complaint letter was relayed and given to the staff of USEC Lau.
So it was officially served on him by your office.
It was given by my executive assistant to the executive assistant of USEC Lau.
I'm sorry, Secretary De Rosario. Could you just answer me as insofar as your records are concerned? His office, the office of Undersecretary Lau, since he was no longer with you, was served a copy of this anti-graft commission report.
Madam Chair, Your Honor, at the time, as I have said, USEC Lau was not assigned in my agency anymore. So
Yes.
what I did, since the issue is quite confidential, I gave instruction to my executive assistant to give that complaint letter to the office of Yusek Lau in Malacanang. Yeah, he was then with DBM. So uh, the one given with that letter, the executive assistant of Yusek Lau, actually drafted a reply letter to PACC. And we were parties of that draft letter. I do not know
Yeah.
exactly if that was signed and given
Yes.
to PACC by Yusek Lau.
So in
Sen
effect,
Frank, if I
with that,
may
just
add
a
to your
point,
question.
Lisa,
Yes, Sen
just
Frank. Go ahead, Sen Frank.
I lost my my line of question, but the point is the, uh, the fact that a draft was crafted of the reply indicates that they have received it.
Madam Chair, Your Honor, that is most likely they receive it.
So that's all, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minority Leader. The Secretary, I just wanted to add to the question of the Minority Leader. Additionally, do you recall if you ever also spoke directly with former Yusek Lau about that complaint?
I don't recall anymore, Madam Chair, because from the time that he left the HADSI as HLRB CEO, I did not meet Yusek Lau in the span of maybe 6 months.
I see, Secretary. Although, of course, if ever you had spoken directly to him, kung maalala po ninyo, pwede naman pong mangyari yon, hindi man face-to-face, but over the cell phone or however else. So just as an additional point to
Yes,
the
Madam
question of
Chair,
the
Your
Minority
Honor,
Leader. Yes, Secretary, please.
most likely I have told him. Maybe if I have told him, I would say, ikaw na bahala sa PACC. Anyway, you are both directly under the office of the President. And he was then working at DBM. Maybe that's what I will tell him. That's what I will tell him.
Yes,
Yes,
we are
Sen
asking
Frank.
these questions, Mr. Secretary, because Undersecretary Lau denied under oath that they ever knew of this complaint against him.
I could not recall exactly, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and that's all for. I have no question. I endorse the budget of the department. It is so grossly inadequate, I must say, and I underscore that grossly inadequate. We should support our housing sector. It is a multiplier. The multiplier for our economy is undisputed and is supported by all the studies. It's the highest one among the highest multiplier effect, higher than the anti-insurgency fund, which has no addition to our economy. But unfortunately, the budget people, the DBCC, does not believe in that. Kawawa ka naman, Mr. Secretary. The multiplier effect of every 1 peso devoted to housing is what, 3 times? Did you say?
3.44, Madam Chair.
3.44, okay. 3.44% for every 100 peso, for every 100 million devoted, you have 344 million in a multiplier effect. But that is why I can imagine if they give you the budget that you need, you can imagine the multiplier effect for our economy. So I can imagine, I can understand your frustration. I will not stand in the way of your trying to achieve your mission. I am recommending, insofar as my vote is concerned, we are fully endorsing yung katiting mong budget, which is totally
Thank you very
unfair
much, Your
to
Honor.
your section. So, thank you very much.
Salamat po.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Minority Leader. At para din sa inyong buong pusong pagsuporta sa budget ng DSUD. And the Chair looks forward to the support of the Minority Leader in the very last budget call of this administration at the beginning of next year, at least to keep alive that advocacy na mas pondohan ng higit at mas maayos yung budget ng DSUD. So maraming salamat, Minority Leader.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thank you. Yes, sir. And thank you, Secretary, for being more forthright with our committee about that last question raised by the Minority Leader, more forthright than your former Undersecretary. And the Chair also
Excellent,
wishes to reiterate my earlier request for an audit or full accounting of the escrow funds moving forward. So, salamat po.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now,
Thank you.
Secretary, yes, sir. We will hear, the floor is now yours, San Francis Tolentino, for your question, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I joined the manifestation of the good minority leader in supporting the passage, the approval of the budget of the shoot, and would move later on. But still some questions. I was expecting that the minority leader would. This is a joke. Should be taken lightly that the supposed budget that should go to the proposed DOFIL should go to the should family. I was expecting that one-liner from the minority leader.
No.
But seriously, Madam Chairperson, I have some issues, and notable of which is coming from a COA report, and this has something to do with the budget, the amount that should have been given to NHMFC coming from the Basis Conversion and Development Authority, and this has been pending for the last several years. This is the share from the proceeds of the sale of the military camps in Metro Manila, amounting to almost $1 billion for the years 2013 to 2019. What may we know the status of this now? If anybody is willing to answer.
Madam
Secretary,
Chair,
I
Your
recall
Honors.
in an earlier briefing sec, meron kayong slide tungkol dito sa tanong ni San Francis. If you would like to
Yes,
show
ma'am.
it again.
May I request, ma'am, the President of the National Home Mortgage to shed light on this?
Yes, President, please proceed.
Yung pan mo, unmute, Kuloy. Unmute, hindi ka nadidinig.
Ayun. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Once again po, good afternoon to the honorable senators, Madam Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Yes,
If you will
microphone,
allow
sir.
me, yes, if you will allow me po, may I request our Attorney Vicky Lau, who is on top of this concern po regarding the basis conversion share of the NHMFC. I believe.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Attorney Vic.
Attorney
Yes,
Vic.
yes, President.
Good afternoon.
Attorney Vic, please proceed. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. As regards our allotment for coming from the BCDA sale, we are entitled together with HGC and the National Housing Authority to, I think it's a 12% share in the proceeds. And that we have already requested from the DBM for the release of said funds. However, in a meeting with the DBM, they requested if we can have a memorandum of agreement with the other agencies who are also entitled to receive their shares. Considering that HGC is no longer a housing agency, or rather connected with the SHUD, but is already with the Department of Finance with Phil Guarantee. And so we also inquired already with the DBM. We sent them a letter requesting for an opinion if a MOA is really required for us to be able to have the funds released, at least our share. But unfortunately, Your Honors, we have not yet received DBM's reply. We wrote to the office of DBM having jurisdiction over our corporation, that's BMBC.
Madam Chair, I think they might have barked on the wrong tree. With all due respect, I think communications and formulation of a memorandum of agreement, which you mentioned a while ago, should have been directed to the Office of the Government Corporate Counsel. The Government Corporate Counsel can be of assistance considering that the HGC is now part of another department, the Department of Finance. So it is not yet late in the day if perhaps the good secretary can initiate a communication seeking the assistance of the Office of the Government Corporate Counsel. So I think Justice Elpidio Vega is the right person to formulate the MOA as well as synchronize both of your moves, considering that the BCDA is represented likewise by the Office of the Government Corporate Counsel. So just as a suggestion that perhaps you can immediately initiate, Mr. Secretary, that initiative.
Secretary,
Madam
would you
Chair,
like to,
yeah.
with President Rabat, act on that advice of San Francis?
Yes, Madam Chair, Your Honors, we will follow the advice of the Honorable Senator Francis Tolentino.
Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Thank
San
you.
Francis.
Thank
Yes,
you,
of
sir.
course.
Thank you very much po.
With the permission of the good chairperson, I missed the greater bulk of the Marawi presentation. I think that was 2 weeks ago because I have to join another committee hearing. This is the problem when you're multitasking. So the question here is this: are we on track with the Marawi rehabilitation, sir? And are we going to finish by December?
Yes, Madam Chair, Your Honors. Actually, most of the projects, about 70% of the projects will be completed by December of 2021. And practically everything will be completed by June 30 of 2022.
Secretary,
President-
forgive me for interrupting. Maybe if you could show you the slides again para mas yumaman pa yung diskusyon niyo with San Francis.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Secretary.
Please. These are the completed projects. About 30 projects from roads, the foremost, bridges, and government buildings and other facilities. The next slide will show the projects that will be completed by December of 2021. Actually, will be completed October and December, as shown, with corresponding status of completion. And these projects will be completed by June of 2022. The President will actually inaugurate the ribbon cutting of the completion of the Grand Mosque on October 17, 2 weeks from now. And he already agreed to be present in Marawi City for the ribbon cutting ceremony of the Grand Mosque, which is the biggest mosque in our country. It's about more than 9,000 square meters. As shown is the 2017 status of the Grand Mosque. It's the biggest in our country. And when I visited about 2 weeks ago, when I went inside, this is what we can see. It's a world-class repair conducted in the rehabilitation of the Grand Mosque. This will be the fifth mosque that will be completed, and more mosques will be completed as we go on. And in the next slide, this is the the aftermath of the Marawi siege in 2017 on the left side, and on the right side will be the as of 2 weeks ago, it's now being converted into a park that can attract major tourism industry in Mindanao. As shown are the two buildings, the uh, the Marawi Museum and the School of Living Tradition, and in the foreground portion going to the lake is the Peace Memorial. And to the right of these facilities are the sports complex, convention center, and the Grand Badian market that will be completed by December of the year also. Madam Chair, Your Honors.
Mr. Secretary, Madam Chair, if I can just
Yes,
interject
sir.
one point. The original
San Francis,
blueprint,
you have the floor.
yes, ma'am. The original blueprint before calls for the establishment of a water reservoir system. I think there is a Muslim family who is willing to donate the piece of land that the water system would be located. I have yet to see from the documents where, although this is abutting a lake, where will the source of water uh, come from, and what happened to that proposal coming from a Muslim family to donate a piece of land for the water system?
Actually, Madam Chair, Your Honors, it's the bulk water supply. The construction of the bulk water supply will commence by the middle of the month, and I was assured by the newly designated LUA director that it will be completed by March. A project that would take about 6 to 7 months. The source will be the lake itself, so there will be a filtration facility, and the construction will commence this month and will be completed by end of March or second week of April, Madam Chair, Your Honors. And they donated the donation of the lot where the reservoir will be constructed. I think there are two options now: that place and the old city hall, which is higher site than the one being donated, will be used by the Marawi Water District as the location of the reservoir.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Another point, Madam Chairman, this is a policy question. I still have, I think, three. Mr. Secretary, and we're all aware of this. You're in charge now. Your department is in charge of urban planning, and post COVID-19 era, the mindset of urban planners, developers, even local government officials, and even this should be, I would be suggesting this to Chairman Abalos, is that we do not treat the National Capital Region per se based on the territorial jurisdiction of the 17 LGUs, but, and this is probably how IATF hit it right, and I congratulate them whether this is coincidental or made because of serious planning sessions. The concept of NCR Plus, whether it's NCR Plus 5 or Plus 8, has evolved, not just for purposes of lockdown and the classification of quarantine restriction, but to me, it's really a process that can now be considered as an expanded urban area outside Metro Manila that would encapsulate Rizal, Cavite, portions of Laguna. So is the department going to push through with this, which I think is coincidentally correct in terms of planning, although I would surmise it was not meant that way. It was just for lockdown purposes. Would would the department be considering the notion of an expanded Metro Manila, Greater Manila region to include the entire NCR Plus for planning purposes as the department moves forward, just for policy consideration, Mr. Secretary?
Madam Chair, Your Honor, actually, that is the mandate of the department, and that is the direction that we would like to do to develop and manage secondary cities and ensure sustainability of the region, manage urban expansion to prevent sprawl and preserve environmentally sensitive areas, and also include the improvement of transport linkages within urban systems to support compact development and access to services and production. So we are now focusing on this, and we really need to network with other agencies so that this urban development aspect can be given focus by the national government, Your Honors.
So, Mr. Secretary, you're saying that you're willing to institutionalize that concept of NCR Plus because early next year or latter part of this year, the first station of the MRT-7 going to San Jose del Monte, Bulacan might be inaugurated. So it's really a bigger area. But for planning purposes, you will be looking at the processing of subdivision applications, the granting of permits that would perhaps physically isolate that entire NCR Plus. Is that the direction of the DSUD? Coming from the ashes of COVID-19 pandemic, where it seems that we hit it right, although it might just be coincidental, Mr. Secretary.
Madam Chair, Your Honor, actually we have started the networking on this project. For details, may I request Director Nora Diaz to give us an update on the on this framework of development?
Yes,
Please
Thank you very
proceed,
much,
May I
Director
request that?
Nora.
Yeah. Yes.
yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Senator Tolentino, for information lang din po and for update. Actually, the department has already started with the preparation of the national guide. In other words, it will be applied nationwide for coming out with a framework for resilient housing and human settlements. Actually, Your Honor, we have already prepared the draft initially for the resilient housing and human settlements. But with the assistance of UN Habitat, we have extended it because of the pandemic. We are now integrating the pandemic issue for as part of resilient human settlements and housing and human settlements. So, sir, Your Honor, Mr. Senator, yung pong Cavite area and mga periphery ng Metro Manila are actually covered by this national guide that we are preparing. Actually, we are ready with the national guide initially because of the framework that is required under Republic Act 11201. Kaya lang po, because of the pandemic, we have started working on it, improving the guidelines, including now the pandemic issue, Your Honor, Madam Chair.
This will be clarified as we move forward, Madam Chair. Two items again. I would advise and I'm proud of this output. I would advise the Should family and the chairperson greatly contributed to the crafting of the updated Baguio City Charter. Take a look at that. It's for me a city charter that should be copied by other cities and other growth centers. But one thing that, and this is coming from the amendment of Senator Cayetano, one thing that should distinguish this from other charters as well as the local government code is the inclusion of the word sustainable. So in my dream, the city planning and development officer of every city, including the municipal planning and development officer, the provincial planning and development officer, should have linkages with the DSUD. Should have linkages with the DSUD as your foot soldiers, so to speak. But with the Baguio bill, we changed the concept. It's now called the City Planning and Sustainable Development Officer. So the word sustainability was included in the measure for the different offices to stress our commitments to international obligations. So perhaps looking forward, 2 years from now, we might change the name of your department to the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Sustainable Development and Urban Sustainable Development. So the word sustainable would be really enshrined and institutionalized. Pangarap ko po yon, Madam Chairperson. So I would probably
Sustain.
have that in my dreams for the next Congress, Madam Chairperson. But in some items, and this is also likewise a policy direction, it's been clear that because of the Mandanas ruling and the DBM Circular 138, that a chunk of housing functions would be given to the LGUs. And the national government agency concerned, and in this case it's the Department of Human Settlements, should craft a devolution transition plan. And the deadline was September 30. So may I ask from the good secretary if we now have a devolution transition plan? Mukhang may hirapan po kayo dyan kasi kakicreate nyo lang tapos magdi-devolve na kaagad. So luging-lugi kayo, kapapanganak nyo lang, gagawin na kaagad kayong teenager. So how are you doing as regards that Circular 138 of the DBM and the Mandanas rulings, Mr. Secretary?
Madam Chair, Your Honors, actually we have submitted our devolution plan to DBM last September 30. And as far as the housing is concerned, there are only two areas that we recommended to be devolved, as shown. We'll show it, Honorable Senator.
And then, Secretary, pag final na yung plan, baka pwede nyo kaming padala ng kopya dito sa Senate. Pati po sa komite ni San Francis, if I may request.
The National Housing and Urban Development Sector Plan, we have already, ma'am. We'll send you. We just got it today. So
All right,
we'll,
congratulations.
give this to you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, sir.
And
Thank you, sir. Please
yung
proceed.
sinabi ni Sir Francis incorporated na po dito yung regarding sa NCR Plus.
Devolution plan entails two items, and these are, sir?
Ilaki nga.
Nawala po sa screen, Secretary.
Binabalik, sir.
Comsec, paki-enable ma-share.
Ba't nawala? Okay, ilaki niya. Ito sir ang function na we are recommending to be devolved. Projects for declaration as unfinished, incomplete, and abandoned, and which may be subject to takeover, be given to the LGUs. They can better implement this function. So next, the opening of roads of subdivisions to the public when the general welfare requires it upon consultation with stakeholders. This can be devolved also to the LGUs as the one in charge in the overall provision of public facilities in his
Madam Chair,
municipality or city.
if I can interject.
Yes, please, San Francis.
Yes. So the department is planning or has indicated its desire to devolve or transfer. The good word would be transfer some of the functions provided for by Republic Act 11201 to the LGU. So would it mean that the the devolution here would mean the total hands-off policy on the part of the should, because take a look at this, Mr. Secretary. For instance, if you look at a subdivision or a private enclave, I'm referring now to Camp Aguinaldo. Camp Aguinaldo, if we open the roads inside Camp Aguinaldo to divert traffic along EDSA, would entail two LGUs, two LGU jurisdictions. You have Quezon City and perhaps a portion of is it Pasig or San Juan? So if there is a subdivision that encompasses two territorial jurisdictions, so how are you going to oversee that devolution when there might be boundary conflicts or territorial conflicts, which only the DSUD, as envisioned by the framers of RA 1201 as a national government agency, can, correct me if I'm wrong, baka mali ako doon sa Camp Aguinaldo, but there are probably other subdivisions that would Wakwak, for instance, Mandaluyong, Pasig. So how would we sort this out? Can it create more confusion? One half lang yung kalye na nabuksan dun sa isang jurisdiction, ay pumayag nung isa because it would generate traffic. So, yes.
Madam Chair, Your Honors, actually the policy still remains with the department, but the actual implementation will be undertaken by the LGUs. And before the actual implementation, still the department will be the lead in consultation with the subdivisions concerned. But in the actual implementation, it will be the LGUs.
Just two functions, Madam Chairperson, devolution of roads and the issuance of permits. But for urban planning purposes, it would still be the should, the department itself that would be on top of everything. Am I correct in that?
Madam Chair, Your Honor, yes, urban planning will be a responsibility and mandate of the department.
What about the mandate of Circular 138 that housing, local housing should be a priority of LGUs and no longer the DSUD? How would you equate that with how would you transform that, having hand in hand your 11201 and the Mandanas ruling, but not being in conflict with local autonomy, and at the same time preserving your institutional turf as envisioned by 11201, wherein planning should not be per territory per se, but should crisscross boundaries to have a more cohesive planning approach, Mr. Secretary. These are all policy directions because of that Mandanas ruling. So there might be conflicts, there might be a need for clarification. So again, I suggest that Mr. Secretary, this be clarified with the DILG and the DBM. Pareho naman kayong mga general at DBM pala, hindi. So mahaba pa hong usapin to. It's not just the shedding of functions and budget, but it has to evolve into a more coordinative devolution, Mr. Secretary. Yun lamang po, Madam Chair, hindi ko na siya pasasagutin doon. And the very last point is your promise as we deliberate on the rental subsidy law, which is really very important, especially during this pandemic era. We expected since the other week your position on this, but sadly, Mr. Secretary, we've been waiting. Dito ko na lang kinuha yung pagkakataon sa budget hearing na to. When do we expect to have that position paper, and what is your position on this? We can also ask the National Housing Authority. There is now pending before the Senate. We're now, I think, on the period of interpellations. the rental housing subsidy bill. So the policy questions are this: Do you accept the proposition that it should be a standalone rental housing subsidy bill for NCR Plus at the onset, or would you want this as a policy direction again be included in the 4-piece program as an adjunct of 4-piece, a leg? If there are 4-piece, perhaps this will be the 5th P, pabahay. So I'm calling my Metro Manila experience, all those living in the Esteros, I've seen this. So how do you envision this, Secretary? Because this will definitely be part of your department's turf, Secretary De Rosario.
Madam Chair, Your Honor. Sir, I would just like to give my comments on the first issue with regards to the urban development and shelter planning. That will remain with the department because we provide technical direction to all LGUs, cities and municipalities and provinces in the crafting of their comprehensive land use plan and in the eventual crafting of the local shelter plan. So everything will be integrated with the different LGUs, cities and municipalities crafting their comprehensive land use plans with the guidance of our technical people. And then all this will be submitted to the provincial government for the crafting of their provincial framework. So everything will be integrated, and we will continue providing technical assistance, capacity building, in as far as the land use and local shelter plans are concerned. Now, with regards to the rental housing policy, we are recommending a standalone policy with regards to the rental, not with the 4-piece, Your Honors.
For that, because I was about to invite the good chairperson, perhaps as we collaborate in the near future, perhaps in the next Congress or even before this Congress expires, that we can amend the 4-piece program to be known as the Pantawid at Pabahay ng Pamilyang Pilipino program, a 5-piece program, no more 4-piece, just for NCR and other areas. But since the good secretary is advocating a standalone program, perhaps this representation would ask him to reconsider, because housing is the major component of other programs, and the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program should be anchored on housing. Without housing, all the other social components would go astray. So I invite the good chairperson to join me, and we will craft a 5-piece program that would initiate a more cohesive social justice program, especially for the urban poor. Maraming salamat, Secretary Del Rosario. Ayoko nang pahabain ito at kanina pa kami rito umaga. At yung sa NHA, siguro naniniwala po ako na kailangan talaga, kagaya ni Senator Trilon, madagdagan po yung budget ninyo. Napakaliit kung tutuusin. Hindi ko nga maisip kung paano pa ito nahihiya na nga ako dito bilang chairman ng committee nyo, kung paano ko iuusad sa darating na 2022. But again, I reiterate the commendation given to you a while ago by the minority leader, and I support the passage of this measure. But as we go forward, Madam Chairperson, perhaps during the plenary, we can find ways on how to augment this minuscule working budget needed by Filipinos longing for housing, which is the first and last bastion as we confront the COVID-19 pandemic. And this will be felt not just during this pandemic period, but even beyond the horizon. So, Madam Chair, I second if there are no other questions coming from Your Honor, I would second the move of Senator Drilon with the interjection that perhaps we can have this increase during the plenary, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very
Sir
much.
Francis.
Thank you very much, Sen Francis. And before we act on that, so maraming salamat. It's always interesting to hear these policy questions, also from the chair of the Senate Committee on Local Government. So with regards the second policy issue, also from the former chair of the MMDA, thinking until now about the future of NCR at yung mga karatig rehiyon niya. And also thinking about kung paano yung iba't ibang social protection programs natin are related to each other or might relate to each other even more, whether yung rental housing subsidy or yung 4-piece program. So maraming salamat din, Sen Francis. And before we do act favorably on that, pending motion of the minority leader joined by Sen Francis, just maybe last two things before we deem our budget submitted. Una po, Secretary, going back to the last issue of Sen Frank, since the escrow funds are off budget and still, as of now, very untransparent, yet they total billions of pesos gaya ng pinag-usapan, and they actually ironically rival your department's proposed budget. May I ask for your secretary full support for the audit of these funds?
Madam Chair, Your Honors, actually I requested during our entrance briefing of COA, I asked our COA to audit our escrow from 2018 to date. Based on your instructions during our meeting, I requested during our entrance meeting with the COA to audit our escrow, Your Honors.
Thank you very much, Secretary. Appreciate that. Ifo-follow up na lang po ng aming committee iyan. And then, I thank DBM for their presence today. Pasensya po kung hindi kayo natanong, but I would like to make a request both sa SHAFC po at sa DBM. Kung before we go to plenary, pwede kayong magbuo ng consensus report on the actual extent of performance or underperformance and the utilization of the funds. Kasi kung natanong yun ng isa sa mga kasama ko dito sa Senado, we would have seen na hindi nagmamatch no? DBM would claim underperformance, but SHAFC would claim otherwise. So bago po tayo pumunta sa plenary at maitanong din ito sa akin ng mga kasama namin, Nina Sen Francis, baka you could come up with that consensus report. Yes, Sen Francis.
Yes,
Yes,
sorry
please.
to interrupt, Madam Chairperson.
Problem.
We had an engagement with, I'm sorry, I never realized that DBM was there. With DBM relative to the pending measure, which is the rental subsidy law. And we were asking DBM the exact figure on how to operationalize this. And apparently, they are still waiting again for the shoots figures. So, again, Secretary, the DBM will not be able to move forward without your input. So, to hasten all of this, may very gently request you to give your inputs to the DBM to make this, to move this forward. Yun lamang po, Madam Chairperson. Thank you for that opportunity.
Salamat, Sen
We will
Francis.
comply
Salamat,
to that,
Sec.
Madam Chair.
Salamat, Sec. And would that be all right also with SHAFC and DBM na to come up with a consensus report na magagamit kong pansagot sa plenary? Andito ba si President Cabling, and then who could answer for DBM? Oo.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir. Mr. Payot, you're with DBM? You're with SHAFC. I'm sorry. Yes.
Madam Senator, Madam
Apo.
Chair.
Wala
So
na si
within-
President.
Wala po siya ngayon kasi meron po siyang pinuntahang project po,
I see.
Senator. Yes,
Okay,
we
I'm
can do
mistaken.
that po.
I thought I saw him earlier. Yes, Mr. Payot.
We can do that po, Madam
do.
Chair. We will
Okay.
coordinate with DBM so
Yes.
so that we can give you a a clearer report on the accomplishment
Yes.
of FC and especially the utilization of the funds that have been given to us.
Opo. Please do. Salamat, Mr. Payet. Para ma-reconcile and we can use that as a basis also of finally approving the budget. Thank
Yes,
you very
Madam.
much. Ang DBM, okay po ba sa inyo? Sino po bang sasagot para sa department? Ms. Jane, would you like to just take this quick question?
Yes, ma'am, we will do, ma'am. Ang kailangan lang na, good afternoon po, ma'am. Thank you po, ma'am.
Good
We
afternoon.
will just have to have the submission of the should, ma'am. We're talking, ma'am, of the requirement. Sir, Senator Tolentino, may I be
Yes, San
clarified?
Francis.
Opo. Ma'am, may I be clarified if you may allow me? Sir, yung pinag-uusapan po ba natin, sir, yung sa rental subsidy po, sir, na dapat po na ibigay na nating pondo for 2022?
No, what we're looking at is your position paper, because the rental subsidy law is still being deliberated upon. So
Yes,
we
sir.
are looking at the financial basis for this, and we're waiting for your inputs.
Sir, I think, sir, nakapag-submit na ho kami ng position paper, sir. I will check. Meron na ho kami na isubmit, sir, if I am not wrong.
Is this from? Are you from DBM?
Yes, sir.
Yes, because there was
She is,
supposed
Francis.
to be a Zoom session involving my office and even me personally, but DBM, the advice of DBM is that you're still waiting for documents coming from the SHUD.
Sir, sir, may I be clarified, sir? Maybe I be allowed to clarify, sir? Kasi, sir, ang napag-usapan namin at the time, sir, we were asked by your staff kung meron hong budget na naibigay in 2022. So, ang sabi ho namin, sir, there was a proposal of 3 billion, but at that time, there was no details as to how much will go to the rental, subsidy. Marami ho siyang nilagay na activity na nakalump, pero there was no specific allocations for each of the activity they proposed to be funded. So, yun ang naging issue namin. So, we were not able to provide or make a recommendation in the absence of a details. Yun ang napag-usapan at the time during the Zoom meeting, sir.
Madam Chairperson, where will the details come from?
San
Ito
Francis,
po-
gusto ring sumagot ni Sec Del Rosario on this matter.
Yes.
Sec, please. Sec, nakamute kayo. Nakamute kayo, Sec.
Ma'am, actually, Director Weng is on top of this. Director Weng, please
Sir?
clarify.
Yes, sir. In fact, sir,
Yes,
I just
Director
like to
Weng.
clarify. Yes, magandang hapon ho, Senator Risa, and to Senator Tolentino. Actually, we had a meeting last week, sir, di ba, regarding the ISF rental subsidy. In fact, sir, the position of the HADSI was already, the DSUD, we sent it already before on the Senate Bill 2393. And regarding dun sa ISF rental subsidy, we have submitted during the first request for 2022, sir. This is part of the PHAP, the Public Housing Assistance Program, which is worth 3 billion. Ang ating pong data, ang ating nilagay for the ISF is 800 plus million. So, yun po yung naghati po sila. Actually, it's kasama po doon ng REAP, the Resettlement Emergency Assistance Program. And there's another one, which is the regular housing program na coming from the proposal of Congressman Dasa din. Sinubmit po namin ito sa DBM. But during our meeting recently with Senator Tolentino, kasi ang base natin for the ISF rental subsidy before, it's 2,500 per month ang subsidy po. That was, we used the PSA study on the rent control law that time, which is, I think that was in 2016. So there was this data crunch together with NEDEN. I think this was deliberated several times in both houses, the Congress and the Senate, na 3,500 na po siya. So what we did, in fact si Attorney Yuan po nag-usap kami kasi nga what we gave to them was the original one we prepared for DBM, yung unang hingian po ng tier 2 to eh. I'm sure the finance group of the Sud will agree with me. Nag-submit po kami sa kanila. So sabi sa office ni attorney ni Senator Tolentino sir na we should go for 3.5, which is may basis po kasi there was a presentation made by NEDA counting with using the FIES of 2018 na ang sinasabi nga ron po na 5,600 pesos monthly ang rental, which if we go by 3,000 for 3,500, which sufficient na. So nag-data crunching ho uli kami, so hindi na po siya lumabas na actually yung computation ho namin, it's like 8 billion pesos po sir for the first year. That's why si Senator Tolentino is proposing na mag-piloting daw po muna for the ISF rental subsidy. So ang suggestion niya is with the NCR. But yun nga po, when we look at the figure of the ISF present in the regions, there are 6 regions with high number of informal settler families. So yun po, kaya po ang amin lang kung ano yung ilalabas na batas, which is we go with 3.5 but the implementation as to the piloting sir, I think magkakaroon po ng kasi nationwide po meron naman po talagang presence ng ISF nationwide. So I don't know, maybe because it's may limiting lang because of the budget, but I think it is the position of the DSUD that we if we implement the rental subsidy, it might as well be implemented nationwide sir. So yung data po,
Thank you,
meron na po
Director
kami
Weng.
nun, Sir, Senator Risa. In fact, sa legal po namin, may position paper din po submitted for the Senate Bill 2393. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Madam Chairperson, we'll have a
Is that
separate
sufficient, Sen.
discussion
Francis?
relative to the proposed bill.
Ma'am, may
Just
I react?
Sen. Francis, gusto yata magdagdag si Director Jane. And maybe we can wrap up on this question of Sen. Francis, dear colleagues.
Sir, if you will
Yes,
allow me,
ma'am.
sir, to present our point. Sir, I do not know where the DSUD submitted the document. Kasi as far as we know, sir, may mga coordinations naman ho kaming ginagawa with the DSUD budget. And at the time na kinakraft ho natin ang budget, wala naman ho kasi mga details na naisubmit sa amin. Kaya we were not able to make a recommendation. Ay, hindi ko lang ho, sir, alam ha, kailan ho ba naisubmit sa amin at sino, kasi ho ang budget office ho ang kausap namin. Yun lang naman ho, sir. Thank you po, sir.
I'm clarified, Madam Chairperson, but I think
Thank
DSUD and DBM should be talking to each other again,
Yes.
Madam Chairperson.
I agree, Sen. Francis. Not
Okay,
necessarily in our hearing, but yes, between themselves para maka-submit dun sa committees, our committee on housing. Thank you, Sen. Francis, and thank you to DBM and DSUD. And then to my
Thank you,
question
ma'am.
earlier
Thank you,
also about DBM, Ms. Jane, tulad ng SHAFC, payag ba kayo to work with them to come up with that consensus report para lang i-reconcile yung conflicting figures nyo on the fund utilization? Pwede po ba, Ms. Jane?
Ma'am, my apology, ma'am. My apology, ma'am. Hindi ko kasi kami ng house ng corporation. It's another bureau. Nevertheless, ho, pararatingin po namin kung ano ho yung nire-require during this hearing.
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Ms. Jane. All right. So in that case, San Francis, Sec. Del Rosario, heads of agencies ng key shelter agencies, acting on the motion of the minority leader joined by San Francis, the budget of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development with all the key shelter agencies is deemed submitted unless senators who are in 2 other hearings right now will request a second hearing, as has happened halimbawa po sa kaso ng DBM. But for this afternoon, I'm very happy to say that our budget is deemed submitted. Salamat,
Thank you very
St.
much,
Francis.
ma'am.
Maraming salamat,
po
Sec,
salamat.
at mga
Salamat, dagang salamat,
Yes,
dagang
Thank you,
salamat.
ma'am.
Salamat.
Thank you.
Salamat.
stay healthy. See you po sa plenary. Okay po.
Okay, thank you very much sa lahat. Housing officials, shelter agency heads.